In this video of the Historic Ordnance series, we're going to look at the Russian RPG-26 disposable light anti-tank weapon. Now, this officially has replaced the RPG-22 in Russian Army service, but in actuality, they kind of serve alongside each other and have from the very beginning. Now, this went into development about the same time as the RPG-22, almost a competing program. It looks like they both were tested in Afghanistan in the early 1980s. Both of them were adopted by the Soviet military in 1985. And since 1993, officially, this was designated as the replacement for the RPG-22, even though they served alongside each other. This particular weapon system, it looks like, in the initial fieldings at least, with the Soviet military on into the Russian military at the very beginning, this was kind of meant for specialized troops. This was meant to be with the airborne troops and Soviet naval infantry, their Marines, and their Spetsnaz, something that was lighter weight for those troops to carry with them in the field compared to an RPG-18 or an RPG-22, and definitely a lot lighter than the RPG-7. Now, this is currently in service with, or has been in service with, Russia, Ukraine, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Syria, China, Jordan, Venezuela, Transnistria. It has been used by insurgents in Iraq during the U.S.-Iraq War, or as a lot of us call it, the Second Gulf War. And it reportedly is in use by the Houthis in Yemen. Now, some of the technicals on this, the rocket itself it's the same diameter as the RPG-22. It's a 72.5 millimeter, so it can be called either a 72 millimeter or a 73 millimeter. Length of the launcher, it is not collapsible or extendable, is 30 inches. Weight is 6 1/3 pounds. And the rocket, which is most of the weight, is 4 pounds. The launcher is made out of fiberglass, and I came across one reference that on the inside of the tube there is a metal liner, at least for when the rocket motor initially ignites. The rocket that is fired by this is the PG-26 high explosive anti-tank rocket. This rocket is actually more powerful than the one that was used in the RPG-22. It has a bit more explosive, a little bit better explosive, so it has better penetration capabilities, and the rocket is a bit more powerful. Now, the maximum effective range on this is 250 meters. I do not have the maximum range. EOD reports that this does have a self-destruct built into the rocket, like we see with some of the RPG-7 rockets or PG-7 rockets, and with the RPG-22. It goes a certain amount of time, certain distance, and then the rocket explodes to cut down on unexploded ordnance. Now, penetration capabilities reportedly is 440 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor. That's your straight steel tank armor. It's going to be a lot less when it comes to chopped-in armor or composite armors. It can penetrate 1 meter of steel reinforced concrete, up to 1.5 meters of brickwork, and up to 2.5 meters of logs and earth bunker fortifications. Now, the sights on it, like see here, is marked 5, 15, and 25, which is on the right side here. This is in tens of meters, so it's 50 meters, 150 meters, 250 meters. Now, the marks that are in here, here to here, here to here, here to here, that is the width of a tank as it's coming at you or going away from you. This is the standard average for NATO tanks. That's what it's made for. So you would line up the tank between these marks, and that'll give you a general idea of how far that tank is away from you and if it is engageable. If it's smaller than the marks on the 25, too far away. Now, if this would be used against a Soviet designed tank or Russian built tank or Chinese tank, those are typically narrower than the tanks used by NATO, the United States, and, aka the free world. Now, the rear sight on this, you'll notice it has a 15 here, a plus or minus. Then it has a plus on one side, negative on the other. There is a 3-position diopter on this thing. It's set at the 15, and that actually is 15 degrees Celsius. And from when I looked it up, did the conversion on it, that comes out to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. So what they did is they adjusted the sights here for ambient temperature, because that will affect how the rocket ignites, its angle and that type of stuff. Will it burn hotter? Will it burn slower? Now, if it is over 59 degrees Fahrenheit, you click it over so that the plus side is facing up. If it is under negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit, you click it over to the negative side. This plus or minus 15 here, that is for a temp range of negative 15 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Just checking, see if there's any of the other technicals I should point out on this. Now, I tried to find a picture of the crate, find out how many of these are issued in a crate, and I even have a Russian copy of the manual for this, which I'm slowly going through a translation program on it. And it's not really going through that well because the copy that I downloaded it wasn't photocopied really good, so there is some problems when you run it through a translation program. But I cannot find any information as to how many of these launchers are in a crate. Now, I did come across a picture of a captured cache out of the Donbass that Russians had recovered that had been put in by Ukrainian sappers. And it said that in the picture there was a crate of RPG-26s. I'm not sure which exact crate it is, because all the launchers were wrapped in plastic inside the crates. But I think it looks like there's 6 RPG-26 launchers to a crate, maybe 8. This right here is a picture of what the launchers look like inside their packaging, new inside the crate before they're removed. There is a note here on why this launcher is not extendable. Soviet researchers and designers found during testing that having a few more inches on the launcher did not significantly affect the accuracy of the rocket after it was fired. So the initial version that they had of this was not too much different than an RPG-22. It only extended a few inches. Well, with that, revelation in the testing, they just removed that completely and collapsed stuff. The sights and that did their adjustments and did this as a single unit along the lines of an M136, the AT-4 that's used in the U.S. military. But this is obviously smaller diameter. This is a 73 millimeter, not an 84 millimeter. Now, there is a thermobaric warhead version of this. I could not find a picture of it to show you the markings on it, see if there's anything different. I'm sure there is somewhere on here telling you that it's thermobaric and not a heat rocket, but it's going to be in Cyrillic, it's going to be in Russian. The designation for the model for the thermobaric warhead is the RSHG-2. Now, thermobaric, what that is essentially a flamethrower rocket. This is an explosive round filled with an incendiary filler that is meant to be fired into a window of a building, into the back of a vehicle, into the firing port on a bunker, to explode it inside and fill that area with incendiary fluid to kill the occupants, or at minimum burn off all the oxygen inside and suffocating the people inside that fortification. The thermobaric warhead is in service in the US Russian military alongside the standard high explosive anti-tank warhead. Steps for using both of them are essentially the same. There are notes that the sights have been adjusted because of the change in weight on the warhead for the thermobaric compared to the heat. And the maximum range on the thermobaric warhead is reportedly reduced to only 115 meters. Now, putting these into operation is ungodly simple. Up here you have it in its carrying configuration. There is a shoulder strap that is on this so that the soldier can just throw it over their shoulder, connect it to the top of the rucksack, whatever they need to carry it into battle. Now, when they're ready to use it, on that shoulder strap, there is a little itty bitty pocket in there. Inside that pocket is some pieces of fabric. You're supposed to take that, wad it up, put it in your ears as ear protection, if you have time. About the only time you're going to see that being used is probably in training and combat, not so much. But that is on there. It is in the steps in the Russian manual that you are supposed to employ ear protection before employing the launcher. After you have your ear protection in, that's when you're going to raise up your front sight. And then on the side here, which you can see in this picture not too well, it'd be right here, there is a safety pin. After you have popped up the front sight, pull out that safety pin, and that will free up the rear sight. Put the launcher up on your shoulder, then raise the rear sight, sight in on your target, and then you press down on the little red button here. Just like with an RPG-22, when you raise up that rear sight, that cocks the system to allow it to fire. If there is a misfire, lower that rear sight to decock the system, raise the sight again to recock it, and try firing again. If it does not fire a second time, place the launcher on the ground, business end facing towards the enemy, and grab yourself a second launcher and try engaging your target. Now there's a note here that all objects, just like with your RPG-22, you need to be a minimum of 2 meters away from any type of obstruction behind the launcher. Minimum, because this thing has a horrendous back blast. And if you're firing this from a prone or over the top of a wall, a windowsill, next to a tree, there needs to be a minimum of 8 inches of clearance from the launcher tube to the object. That 8 inches of clearance is the fins on the rocket. And you don't want that rocket getting diverted by hitting an object. Backblast on this is 30 meters to the rear at a 45-degree angle to either side. So just like with any other launcher, get it up on your shoulder, you got it, the sights raised, you're ready to fire it, backblast area clear, check it, everything's clear, fire off your launcher. Now, if your target is out of range, or you do not engage, you're told not to engage the target, the steps for putting this back into the carry configuration is essentially the reverse of the steps you did to put it in operation. So first thing you're going to do, you're going to lower the rear sight to decock the system, remove it from your shoulder. Then put down the front sight so that you don't forget it. Take the safety pin, reinsert it from the left side going to the right side to safe the system, and the weapon's back in carry configuration. So, and that is all the information that I have on this launcher. How effective is it? Reports out of Ukraine are it is extremely effective against infantry fighting vehicles, armored personnel carriers, and obviously light-skinned vehicles. It also is very effective against field fortifications. I mean, it can punch through over 1 meter of reinforced concrete, 1.5 meters of brickwork, up to 2.5 meters of logs and earth. So around 8 feet of logs and sandbags, just the basic high explosive anti-tank rocket will punch a hole through. That's pretty goddamn effective. The company that is manufacturing these in Russia actively tries to sell these around the world. They're trying to get more countries interested in purchasing them. And I think after what we're seeing in Ukraine with its effectiveness, its ease of operation, these things will end up getting adopted by a lot more countries. Ukraine has captured a lot of these. They have used them against Russia. And I'm guessing they were also one of the purchasers of these before the war. It's a sure bet a bunch of these have ended up on the international arms black market. Otherwise, the Houthis probably wouldn't have been able to get a hold of them down in Yemen. So this is a launcher to be aware of and to recognize. You will see this a lot more often in the future here, and a lot more conflicts around the world. This is replacing those old RPG-18s from the 1960s, the RPG-22s from the 1980s. This is the hot thing on the market. So it is something that you will see in the future. I forgot to mention on this, the Russian nickname for this is the Aglen, A-G-L-E-N, when it's translated from Cyrillic. So, there you go. The Russian RPG-26 disposable light anti-tank weapon. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot Militia movements, always remember, essay ons.